All right. Hello, everyone. Today, I am here at Still Point Counseling, and I'm going to interview one of our therapists, Caitlin Lafferty. But just to back up and tell you a little bit about where we are, I'm Jessica King, and I'm the owner and a therapist here at Still Point Counseling, and we're in Wilmington, North Carolina. We're a group practice, and we really serve the whole lifespan. So we have therapists that see kids down to 5 years old and then all the way through adulthood to end of life issues. So we see a variety of people and work with a variety of issues. But today I'm here just to speak with one of our therapists in particular, just to learn a little bit more about her and let you guys learn a little bit more about her. And so I will let Caitlin introduce herself. Hey, Caitlin, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for
I've
being
adopted this new wave. I do this in the Zooms. I've never waved before, but this is like something that I do every telehealth or Zoom. But hi, I'm Caitlin Lafferty, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I do outpatient therapy in person and via telehealth with Still Point Counseling and Wellness.
we love having you. And speaking of telehealth and Zooming and waving, I mean, it's a
Yeah, right.
different world that we're in now. I think, as Caitlin said, she offers in person right now in telehealth, but we went primarily to telehealth at Still Point for a long time, which was a big transition. And for those of you that don't know, that's like online counseling. So you get a link, looks a lot like our Zoom here today, and it's a secure link, and you do your therapy online. It's been great and in a lot of ways. And then I think just like all of you that are at home Zoom meeting and doing most of your social interactions at home, there's some things that can be obstacles. But I think that we've kind of tackled those, and now we are doing kind of a hybrid of in-office visits and telehealth. But I don't know. Yeah, Caitlin, how has that been for you in regards to telehealth, or even just this getting through this whole pandemic?
Well, at first, telehealth, it's strange to connect through the screen. I'm more of an in-person because you can feel people's, energy. But then it seems to be very convenient for clients and for me. And it's nice to be able to just like in the middle of your day, stop and then go upstairs and have your session and go on. So I find that a lot of my clients may continue doing it even after I guess not after the pandemic, but when we're allowed to meet in person, just because of the convenience and it's more comfortable at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made my little home office here. This is some of my like art therapy with kids. So it works and it functions well, but it was strange at first, but now I think that people really like it. And it even allows some people, in my opinion, to open up more because they're at home and they feel more comfortable talking about things versus in an office setting.
Yeah. Those are some great points. I do think it offers a lot of things that maybe we weren't even considering before in regards to convenience and safety for some. So yeah, and then, like you said, I think that once you get over the initial kind of interactions on the screen, it can be just as kind of connecting and engaging and therapeutic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So speaking of therapeutic and your clients, tell us a little bit about the people that you see.
Well, I see a range of clients. So obviously I see kids. I do a lot of art therapy with kids and teens, and I work with them and their families and their parents because parents play a big role in child therapy also.
Mm-hmm.
I also work with couples and women on what I would call, I guess, women's issues.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. Um, and in regards to women's issues, I think, like you said, you see a range of folks, and it seems like kind of like the family systems model, as
Mm-hmm.
far as like, yeah, you see kids, but you're really working with the whole family, and then couples, that certainly plays into the family system. But specifically this morning, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you work with women. So, you said women's issues. So I guess first I would like to know what type, like when women come to see you, what are they kind of telling you? Like what's going on in their life, or what are some of the things that are the problems for them?
So what I've found is most women will come and say, I have anxiety or depression, self-esteem, or relationship problems, or just they feel like something's off. And what we find when we talk and we dig deep to figure out what those feelings look like, or to feel the feelings and listen to what they're trying to tell us, it seems like a trend of, things like body image, self-esteem, identity, people pleasing, guilt, feeling, or things about motherhood, career. So kind of like living in a way that may be causing the anxiety, depression, or relationship problems because the way that they're living is not necessarily aligning with their personal values. So I think sometimes, I get very passionate about this, but I think sometimes women, we put ourselves in this like should like mode. So I should be this way, or I should do this thing, or this is my role to play, but deep down it might not be aligning with what they want for themselves. So it starts and presents as anxiety, depression, relationship problems, but when we dig deep, we find, oh, okay, I'm just going to find my inner voice and then decide, what are my values? What do I want for myself in my life? What do I want my relationships to look like, or my career, or motherhood, or whatever it may be? Or how do I love myself, my body, based on what I love and not what society wants me to be, or my family culture, things like that. So it does a lot of, I call like digging deep to find that voice and who you are. And then the brave part is allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to be that person and to speak up and, say what you want, or your opinions, or just speak up at times where it might be uncomfortable for others. So that goes with the people pleasing. I think usually we people please because it makes things safe and comfortable for everyone. But sometimes what I found talking to a lot of women is that when pleasing others, we're putting ourselves on the back burner. And so I guess what I try to help women do is find out what they want. And if it's not aligning with how they're living, then how they can make that transition.
Wow. Yeah. So
That was a lot. That was a long answer. Sorry.
it was perfect. And like, because it gives us like the whole spectrum. So it sounds like to me, women come in and there's kind of like these external things happening in their life. So they're noticing relationships aren't great, or maybe their work life isn't what they want it to be, or interactions with, what if family, friends, whatever it is. But they're seeing like these external things happen in their life, and you're kind of listening to those and understanding those, and then kind of then moving into asking them to go a layer deeper, which is those feelings, and from those feelings figuring out how that misaligns with their values. And then
Mm-hmm.
from there you're trying, and then you're moving into this next phase of like now making the changes. So I guess one question I thought of when you were talking is what often, what kind of values, I guess, like kind of like connecting people to understanding their values, how do people really start to notice if someone's sitting at home and they're listening to this, how do they start to connect the way that they're feeling to a misalignment in values? How do they notice that, or like start to
So,
unlock that?
okay, that's a hard question. I guess like the series of questions that I invite women to like go with me on would be talking about the problem now and what it feels like, and then trying to dig, like you said, layer. So like, where does that come from? Why do you feel that way? Is there a way we can just get rid of this? No, because it's somehow connecting in your life. So why is it connected? And then kind of dig deep to like the belief system. So do you believe or want this for yourself? If not, then who's putting that on you? If it's like the way that you grew up, or a societal thing, or a relationship thing, culture, and then so kind of deconstructing to find, or finding the core belief, and then deconstructing that to think of like, what do I want this to look like, and how can I build it as my own, and then live in that way. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of honoring your true self and not the way that you should be.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's hard to answer the question, but I would say kind of sitting with your feelings and trying to listen to them and think of, what is this feeling telling me? And is there something that I feel is off internally with the way I'm acting externally? So decisions I'm making, or the way that I'm going about my day or my life on like a, grander scheme.
Mm-hmm.
But in therapy, I like to help guide women to find that through those kinds of series of questions. So it is a lot of layering. I do this a lot because it's like digging deep to get to the core problem. And then if sometimes women will say, oh, I didn't realize it was that, but yeah, I don't really like to think that way about myself, or I don't want that for myself. This is what I want. So how do we transition from that to this so that they can live in a more honest way?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes the anxiety and depression, they can overcome that because now they feel more, I guess, like incongruent with their true self.
Yes, yes. So, like an example, it sounds like if we're talking about like body image, you come in and there may be this problem in the relationship, like not feeling like I can connect with my partner. And then in those series of questions or kind of that uncovering that folks can do with themselves too, but with a therapist is to figure out what like emotion is lying there, what's getting in the way of me connecting, and then what kind of messages are causing that feeling. So is it like the media messages that have been there in my
Mhm.
life? Did it come from where I grew up and the messages that I got from my family of origin, people that I lived with? Um, and is that really what I think about myself? And then trying to bring that back into alignment. So
Oh,
what?
it froze.
Oh no, are you
This is
back?
classic Zoom telehealth. But
Perfect.
yeah, so like for body image, because and I say women, but I also work with teens and girls, and I think it starts there. And body image is a big thing that I get passionate about because there's billions of dollars spent on marketing and advertising to tell us to look a different way or to have, curlier hair or straighter hair or whatever it may be. Um, and then of course like diet culture and things like that. So first I try to help especially young girls see that these are messages that are being blasted in their face constantly, and to be able to differentiate like what do you want to think of yourself and what are other people telling you to think of yourself. And sometimes then that's even like what are your friends saying about themselves and do you agree with that, and how do you not have to adopt those thoughts and feelings about your own self. So part of it is like I use the word adopting a lot because you don't have to adopt those messages or sponge them, or even if your parents say a certain thing about their bodies, you don't have to believe that, about yourself or about bodies in general.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of the work is in really uncovering what the messages are and which ones do we really want to accept. And then when
Mhm.
we don't want to accept those messages, there's some hard work that probably has to happen, huh?
Yeah.
So what
It's
happens
definitely
then?
ongoing. It's not like, because I'll have clients be, oh, I've never thought of it this way. This is great. And then the next week we start all over again, because if it's years and years of layers of thinking and being should on a lot or having these messages and adopting them, then it's going to take ongoing work and time to, strip the layers off so that you can honor your true self and think in a way that you want to think.
Yeah. Yeah. So it takes time. We have to be, I like to use self-compassion a lot. We have to be compassionate with ourselves that we're not doing things wrong when we can't just adopt this way of thinking immediately.
Yes.
That we would then be shitting on our own selves again, that you should be doing this way.
Yeah.
And
Or
not,
you should, like, you've already had this conversation with Caitlin, so you should know what to do and you should feel comfortable doing this, which
mhm.
is, it's unfair to treat yourself like that. But I use the word bravery a lot too, because it does take a lot of bravery and courage to speak up, especially if all of your life you've always been a people pleaser. And
Mhm.
now it seems like you're disappointing people just by having an opinion or, saying no to things or having boundaries or loving yourself the way that you are in a world that maybe before you were trying to conform to fit other people's version of what they wanted you to be. So it
Mhm.
takes bravery, which is scary because you might feel like you're going against the people, that have supported you in this other version of yourself. And now you're, growing into your truer self, and it's scary, but it takes a lot of bravery to go down that path.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would think like when I hear you say words like bravery and kind of going against maybe thing paths or ways of being that you've done before, that this, like I said, isn't an easy path and honestly might end up changing a lot of your external circumstances and relationships. Like, I think about other people getting upset with us or getting mad. Do you find that's something that you have to deal with when you start really connecting with kind of living in your values and
Hmm.
living this truth?
Yeah, I think that sometimes people fear that it will cause conflict, but I also think that it makes you a leader within your relationships to show people how to be vulnerable and open and honest and speak your truth.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times I'll talk about, it's really scary because we think no one else is thinking this, but most people are wanting to be their true selves. They're just scared to. So if you can lead by an example, then you're inviting your friends or your family to do the same. And then everyone can kind of like put their costumes away or their shields away of being perfect and then be their true self. So it's almost a way of leading by example, but it's scary if you're the one initiating this like radical way thing of being yourself. So people are nervous about the conflict, but then they find that, oh yeah, my friend opened up after I said this, and I was very brave to say this, but then she agreed with me and then she shared like her perspective. So it's like
Yeah.
inviting vulnerabilities, I guess.
Yes, I love that. And that's a whole different perspective than I was thinking of. I was going down the path of like, yeah, if I make this choice and set this boundary with someone else, then they may not like it.
Oh
And
yeah.
that may end up being maybe, that we may not have that relationship anymore. But both of those things live in the same house. So that can happen. And we can actually give people permission to also live their truth. And in that way we create the relationships in our life that we really want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
The boundaries can be difficult if it's a new thing, because then, especially as women, if we're used to people pleasing, then we set boundaries, then sometimes we're seen as difficult or whatever, kind of a negative term, instead of just seeing it for what it is, which is a fair boundary to set for yourself. And so sometimes those are the fears of being difficult or seen in a negative way that keep people from having those conversations or setting boundaries or up when they disagree with something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's there, like you said, there's a lot of layers and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Especially if we're an adult woman that's kind of been in this way of being, or kind of been molded into this mold of all the shoulds in our life for a long time. And even as a kid, that is, I think that's a whole just different level of challenges if you're a teen trying to do this work and maybe your family's got a different idea, but it's really
Or a teen
challenging.
in high school, like gosh, like that's like all the messages. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, and when you're a teen and you're in high school, you're exposed to thousands of people, but as an adult you have your small circles, so it's kind of safer to make this growth and change because your circles are smaller, so less people watching you be vulnerable. But in high school, it's just like you're exposed to so many different people. So I think doing this work as a teenager is difficult,
Mm-hmm.
although it's difficult for everyone. And then it seems intense, like when we're talking about it now, but I also find it very fun. And when I'm having sessions with women or kids, teens, it is fun. So we use humor and we talk a lot about, it's just a fun conversation. It's not very intense or scary.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's an important work to do, but I still like to make it fun.
Yeah. So it's this hard, difficult work that we have to like face things about ourselves that we may not like, or things about others in our life we may not like. But I think what you're encouraging is that like when we have like the trusted support of someone else, whether that's a therapist or whether it's a friend or a family member, or a group of people, I think that's always nice when you can have a group of women that you really trust, that tribe aspect,
Mm-hmm.
that it can be fun, that
Yeah.
we're in this together. It takes a village or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So
Again.
what would you like if you were speaking directly to some of these women out there, maybe they're listening, whether they're teens or women, what would you really want them to know? What like take away from today? What would you want them to
Oh
hear?
gosh.
It's a hard one. I
Well,
know. We're digging
I,
deep.
I think again, like sitting with your feelings and feeling your feelings and not suppressing them or shutting yourself out of them or thinking there's something wrong with you. Your feelings are usually trying to tell you something, so listen to them. And then I guess be brave enough to say what you're thinking or set your boundaries or just be yourself despite worrying about what other people will think or making them uncomfortable because you're, finally being true to yourself. I don't know, but I also have a lot of like Brene Brown, Glennon Doyle in my brain of like all their, you know, I don't know. I want to say girl power quotes, but like the idea of being brave enough to sit and consider who you are, what you want for yourself, and then go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I guess an invitation for anyone listening to do those things, but also to find someone to talk to, because sometimes processing it and having a different perspective of people asking the questions so that you can dig deep can
Mm-hmm.
be helpful to find answers.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess and you kind of mentioned a little bit, like just the names, but like if we were to be really specific so people knew where to, if they haven't heard of those, what are some of the resources like that you've read before that you've let the clients know about? Um,
Okay, well, definitely, those two women. So I have here, and I reference them a lot. So Brene Brown, who has, I don't know, maybe 5 books, but The Gifts of Imperfection, which is the first read that really like opened my eyes to being vulnerable and how vulnerability is not a weakness. It takes strength and bravery. And then Love Warrior, which right now Glennon's big book is Untamed, but this came before it. And I have all these, pretty much every page is highlighted because everything she says, I feel like it's a voice to what women feel, but we can never really put it into words. So I have a quote. Can I share one of her quotes here?
Absolutely.
So it pretty much is like, and it summarizes what I've been saying. So 2 quotes from Love Warrior. For women, we must decide whether to stay small, quiet, and uncomplicated, or allow ourselves to grow as big, loud, and complex as we were made to be. Every girl must decide whether to be true to herself or true to the world. Every girl must decide whether to settle for adoration or fight for love. And the other one, which is kind of funny, but it's true. So the universe had presented me with some very obvious rules for femaleness. Be small and quiet and wispy and stoic and light and smooth, and don't fart or sweat or bleed or bloat or tire or hunger or yearn. But the universe had also issued me this lumpy, loud, smelly, hungry, longing body, making it impossible to follow the rules. Being human in a world with no tolerance for humanity felt like a setup, a game I couldn't win. So sometimes I'll share quotes like that with clients and they're like, yes, this is what I'm kind of saying, but I can't actually find the words to say it. So in a way, it's, being true to yourself despite what you feel like you should be based on what society says or culture, family, things like that.
Yeah, I love those quotes. I had goosebumps at the end of the last one. So, but yeah, they both like their books are amazing. Both Brene Brown and Glennon Doyle have like, well, Brene has a podcast and they both have social media. Like people could follow them on social media and get some information too. Yeah, just like encouragement. I think that's how you start to build your tribe that way, kind of, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
even though those people we don't know at all, they're out there in like space somewhere in another place, but it feels like they're part of your tribe when they're speaking your language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think reading is a good resource to connect with, especially books like women empowerment books. And I've had a client before say that they feel like they're the only one that felt this way, despite their therapist who was like validating their experience. So then when I recommended these books or just read some of the quotes, they're like, oh, so if this sold millions of copies, then there must be other women that agree with these quotes. Therefore, other women like me out there. I just haven't found them yet. So I think speaking to like the tribe where people are out there that can validate your experience, but maybe they're not in your circle right now, because sometimes people feel very lonely with their thoughts and feelings because it's against, or it's not what they should be because it's not what their circle is living their life as. So anyways, I just think books can be helpful to validate your experience when you don't feel like anyone around you understands, what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Yes, you don't feel so isolated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as if people really resonate with what you're saying and they're looking for that support person, how do they get in touch with you or follow you or, kind of continue to hear more?
Well, they could follow me on my Instagram,
Mhm.
which I need to get better about posting, but it's at Caitlin Lafferty, LCSW on Instagram. But to schedule an appointment, they would call the Still Point front desk or go online to our website, which is stillpointcounselingandwellness.com.
Mhm.
Correct?
Yes.
And and I am taking new clients now. So if any of this resonates and you're interested, you can call
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, you can be part of their tribe or help them along that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yes, I can tell that you're passionate about that, and just in family systems, because I've seen
Mhm.
your work there too, and that being able to, while you're passionate about this women empowerment, and you said girl power, it's in that realm of like making you feel powerful in your life, but within the like systems that you're already working in. Like
Mhm.
you're not asking people to fight against
Oh
something.
yeah.
It's kind
No.
It's kind of work.
Honestly, I get passionate about pretty much everything people related. So this passion, it's in the kids I work with, but women's issues as a woman, I think it feels natural to go there. And so that's why I get excited to talk about it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
your family systems, couples, and kids, I also am passionate about.
Yeah. And it kind of helping all those layers fit together and feel cohesive and in line.
Mm-hmm.
But congruent. I liked that word you used earlier. Congruent with the way we want to live. So, well, it's been awesome hearing a little bit more about what you are passionate about and the types of people you work with. And yeah, thanks for being here this morning.
Yeah. Thanks for meeting me through the screen.
Yeah, I know. So, and I guess we'll have to do our wave.
I know. Every time I do that, and then I saw something online about it, and I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm embarrassed," because it's not like in real life. I like wave to leave the room, but every time, and I do like a rainbow wave, a huge wave, not even like a gentle, you know. So, anyways,
I know. Well, you saw it online. Obviously, it's like with reading the books, right? You saw it yourself in it. You're like, oh yeah, there's other people doing it.
yeah,
Created a meme about it.
yes,
So, but well, yeah. Thanks for being here, and for everybody watching, thank you for listening to us chat. We love to provide information and resources. Um, on our website that Caitlin mentioned, we have a whole resource tab of things that, whether you're coming into therapy with us or not, that you can access. And we have tons of community partners that can help with with different types of life stages and issues that you're going through. So check out our website for resources, and hopefully we'll have some more of these video chats soon. So thank you guys.
it froze.
Oh no. Bye.